You've seen those wild Airbnbs with nightclubs and archery ranges, even a chicken coop I saw with fresh eggs every day. But are these investments worth the money? And if so, how much extra are they earning the Airbnb host? That is what I'm going to be exploring in this video. We'll be looking at a private 2-lane bowling alley, a recording studio, a private backyard water park, and even a private golf course. My name is Danny, and since 2017, I have been living monthly in Airbnbs. This month, I'm in Honolulu, Hawaii. Next month, I will pass my 3,000th night. Let's jump into it with the private bowling alley. How this is going to work is I'm going to estimate the cost, and then we're going to look at before and after revenue, maybe occupancy, maybe nightly rates, and decide what the cost versus the revenue, what's the ROI, and was it worth it? According to my research, it is going to cost between $75,000 and $100,000 per lane for a bowling alley. This Airbnb has 2 lanes, so we're going to estimate it on the lower end of this budget because this is not a professional bowling alley. So that's going to be $150,000 to install this. We're going to make our way over to PriceLabs Revenue Estimator Pro. If you already have a PriceLabs, click on Market Research and you can find it there. If you don't, look in the description for a direct link. What I have done with the PriceLabs Revenue Estimator here is estimated the actual location of this Airbnb in Kissimmee, Florida, and we're going to look at the size and a before and after. The before you can see is homes without bowling alleys is $172,000 per year. When we look at homes with bowling alleys, they're making $240,000 per year. And yes, bowling alleys in this market, in fact, are somewhat common, believe it or not. So what does that get us? The change is then $68,000 if we assume that cost is $150,000. Now, we're not taking into consideration maintenance costs. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's going to be, we're going to put $68,000 in the numerator, $150,000 in the denominator, and that comes out to a 45% ROI. I would say that is a good investment. If you're an Airbnb host, you're going to want to stick around until the end where I'm going to discuss a strategy on how you can create your own estimates for amenities that you might want to add to your Airbnb. And this time we're going to use all the rooms data analytics. Now I've narrowed it down to this area in France and 2 bedrooms, 1 bathrooms, which this Airbnb with a private recording studio is. We can see that 2 bedroom, 1 bath is making $9,000. Now, when I found this listing within all the rooms, and this listing is making $19,000. That's a change. That's a more than double. That's $10,000 more per year. Now, the ROI on this one is unknown because the prices, which I researched to be being between $500,000 and $30,000. So first of all, that's a giant difference in the kind of quality you want, but also that's for US prices. So you can surmise though that this was a good investment. If anything is going to double your revenue, that's a good investment. Let's go back to the USA. We were on the East Coast in Florida. Let's go to the West Coast, California, Anaheim, world famous. This particular Airbnb has installed a water park in their backyard. Well, after you see these revenue numbers, you might be wondering how much it's going to cost you to install your own private water park. And I have done the research for you. It costs about $300 per square foot for more of a professional size water park. So we're going to cut that number in half. $150 per square foot to install a water park. And based on this listing, let's say it's about 400 square feet. Okay, so that costs $60,000 roughly to install this water park. Now, what you're looking at is all the rooms again, and the average price for 6-bedroom, 4-bath house in this market is $642 nightly rate with an occupancy of 50%. That comes out to an annual revenue of $117,000. That's average. Now, if we look at this one, it has a nightly rate average of $1,016 and an occupancy of 62%. That comes out to $230,000. So in fact, we've just learned something, which I'm going to touch on at the end when I talk about how you can create your own estimate. But when you add amenities, not only are you increasing the nightly rate, but you're also increasing the occupancy. So if we subtract 117, the average home from 230, that gets you $113,000. That is an ROI of 180%. Let's move on to our fourth and final unique wacky amenity, and that is a private golf course. I'm going to make a big assumption here, and that is that you're not going to install a golf course, okay? There's already going to be one kind of there. And the average maintenance costs is $400,000 to $600,000 per year. This Airbnb is in the north of the USA in the great state of Vermont. Back over to all the rooms, we're going to look at the county. It's called Rutland County in this case because there's not a whole bunch of Airbnbs. And you can see the average revenue for this size home in this county is $102,000. And this particular Airbnb, you're not going to believe it, all the rooms has estimated they are making $650,000 per year. Now don't get too excited because this home probably costs multiple millions of dollars. So unless you have multiple high $100,000 to put in the deposit, this is out of most of our reach. But you can see here, how amazing is this? They have months where they are making $150,000. Crazy, huh? I've got some other wacky amenities like separated saunas, full gyms, petting zoo, super fancy pool, game room. If you want me to do another video, you've enjoyed this, let me know in the comments, either one of those that I just said or one of your own that you're actually considering or that you saw your competition. It doesn't have to be super wacky and extravagant like a golf course, for example. And whichever of the top comments below get the most upvotes, that's what I'll make my next video on. I'm going to start off the conversation below with petting zoo, so if you want that, upvote my comment. In this video, I had just looked at 4 wacky Airbnb amenities and looked at how much it costs versus how much revenue they can bring in. Revenue is going to be a combination of occupancy and nightly rate, and if that investment seems to be worth it. Now, how can you create your own estimate, whether or not it's a super extravagant amenity or not? You're going to need 2 numbers, revenue, which is a little bit more difficult, and cost, which is actually easier to know. Cost has components of the installation, the upkeep, and even the potential increase in utilities. For example, if you're using a sauna or a hot tub. Now, because the cost is easier to know, let's start there. Let's assume some amenity that we're going to install costs $75,000. Next, we need to know what is a good ROI for us. So let's say that if I get a payback of 5 years, that would be a good ROI. So $15,000 per year. Of course, if you're making So already we know if you're making $15,000 per year, this probably isn't a great investment because it's unlikely to double your revenue, and you're not making that much anyways, and you probably don't have $75,000 to spend. But what if you're making $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000 a year, and you have a great idea to install something worth $75,000? Well, then let's take it to the next step. Look at your current occupancy. Let's say it's 80%, and let's say you think that you're going to get another 10% occupancy with this amenity. That equals another 37 days. And maybe you have estimated that you can expect about a 20% bump in your nightly rates. Let's say they were $200 and now they're $240. So if we take that increase in occupancy and that increase in nightly rate, in this specific example, we're going to get $13,140. Now we might want to go back and just check all of our assumptions that we made to get to this final number and see if those assumptions are realistic. Maybe we build a low end and a high end. But in this particular example, we're kind of on the right track. I would dig a little bit deeper and really confirm that this investment is going to be a good one. I hope you've enjoyed this video. My name is Danny, and I am the face here at Optimize My Airbnb. I provide tips for Airbnb hosts on how you can absolutely maximize and optimize everything about your Airbnb hosting experience. I do hope you have enjoyed this video and continue watching. I'm going to put up a couple videos right now, which I think you might be interested in. Till next time, happy hosting.